Hi, this is Alex Helmbrecht, the Sports Information Director at Chadron State College, and I'm sitting here this morning with Chadron State men's basketball coach Brent Bargen. The Eagles dropped 2 games on the road last weekend at the Westminster College Tournament in Salt Lake City. On Friday, they dropped an 85-70 decision to Montana Tech, and then that was followed by a 94-69 loss against Westminster, the 13th ranked team in the country. So definitely some quality competition there. Coach, we don't really need to dwell too much on the games. I know that you're a little bit disappointed in the performance at Montana Tech. You actually owned a halftime lead, but then they just kind of got hot in the second half and shot a ton of free throws. And then against Westminster, even though the score wasn't in your favor, you feel like your team really grew up.
Well, I don't think you're ever as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are, and each of those games were probably a culmination. I think that Montana Tech game was a game that we were pretty disappointed in. We had a nice lead in the first half, I think 14 points. They had 6 points in the first 10 minutes, playing very well defensively and getting a lot of things done defensively. And then, you know, we just didn't finish. We were up 6 at half, and second half was a different story. We did not do a very good job of adjusting to the officiating. They shot 49 free throws, and we had committed 41 fouls. There was an 18 foul differential between the way that we played and the way that they played, and that was very disappointing that I as a head coach and we as a program didn't make those adjustments and changes. And you know, take nothing away from Montana Tech. They're a good team. They're playing very well right now. They turned around the next night and beat, I think, the number 20 team in the country. So, you know, they're playing well and doing some good things. They're well coached and play hard. We just got a lot of things to work on, a lot of things to fix, and it's quite frankly, it's a lot more about us and what we're doing or not doing than what it is about our opponents. But that was a little bit of a disappointing game in the sense that I thought we played real well early and then lost focus. As
Coach mentioned, the Eagles did commit 41 fouls, actually only traveled 10 players, which meant they only had 9 available fouls for the rest of the game. Those 10 players who did travel, though, all scored in that game. Zach Bargain scored a season-high 22 points and added 6 rebounds. And then Justin Anderson and David Downey, both 2 starting guards, had 10 points for the Eagles. And coming off the bench, Josh Hatcher had a nice game for Chadron State, finished with 9 points, 5 boards. That was followed by a game against Westminster, where even though the Eagles got outscored 94-69, played really well, especially in the second half. Westminster scored 44 points, Chadron State with 39. Had another great performance from your son, Zach Bargen, had his first career double-double at Chadron State, 19 points and 11 boards. And then Justin Anderson had his best game collegiately, scoring 14 points and even went to the free throw line 8 times. As a point guard, I know that's something that you probably like to see, that point guard getting into the lane, getting fouled, and getting those easy hoops.
Well, I thought those guys both played well, and you know, Zach's kind of a stat stuffer. He played well for us, shot the ball 8 of 14 and 3 of 3, did a nice job, and like you said, 19-11, had 4 assists, 3 steals, and a block shot, and 25 minutes. It's a pretty impressive 25 minutes of play, and was pretty productive for us. Justin, you know, did a great job. He scored 14 points on 6 shots. And got to the line. He was 3 of 6, 2 of 2, and 6 of 8 from the line. So he did some really nice things, and it's a lot of work for him. He's a redshirt freshman, and he played 30 minutes in that particular game, and he went from not playing at all last year and having some knee issues to playing 30 minutes for us in one of our first 4 games. And so, you know, I thought he played really well. He's a great young man. He's doing some really nice things and runs the team. And unfortunately, we've got to get some other guys that are stepping up there a little bit. I thought Grant played well. He had 12 points and 3 rebounds and did some nice things for us, was 50% from the line and got to the line 6 of 7 times. So we did some good things in that game. I think the biggest thing was that we really competed. We got behind. We were a little shell-shocked. Westminster's a great team. They play 10 or 12 guys. We were their 4th RMAC team that they played. They're 3-1 against the RMAC. And Fort Lewis, who will play later and was even with us last year at 4th or 5th in the conference, they beat by the same margin, about 25. And Westminster beat Western State, who's our opponent this weekend, one of our opponents this weekend, by like 42. So, they're a very formidable team. A lot of LDS kids, a lot of kids that have been on their mission, and they're much older than a normal kid. They've got 4 or 5 seniors at start. They shoot the ball extremely well. I think they were 52% from the 3 and 91% from the foul line. We did some good things. I thought we shot the 3 well. I thought we shot free throws well. We just didn't finish around the basket real well, and we turned the ball over a little bit too much. That gave them a few easy baskets, but obviously not happy with the outcome and or the score, but I thought that we did do a good job of competing. We got hit in the mouth early and responded by continuing to compete and played even with them the entire last 30 minutes of the game, which I thought was really important.
Definitely one of those games that a team can build on early in the season. And those are good games to have in the early part of the season during your non-conference portion of the schedule. Now the games really do count. The conference schedule opens this weekend at home, which is a sight for sore eyes. We haven't opened RMAC play at home in a couple years, it feels like. The Eagles will welcome Colorado Mesa on Friday, Western State on Saturday. Coach, with both of those teams, obviously Colorado Mesa 3-1 overall, have some nice wins. They defeated Fresno Pacific in overtime, then lost to Dixie State, but have bounced back with 2 big wins against Northern New Mexico, and then triumphed over Dixie in their most recent game at a Thanksgiving tournament. As you mentioned yesterday at the Booster Club luncheon, Colorado Mesa is one of those teams that's going to pass well, very offensively efficient from Coach Jim Heaps. Are you expecting more of the same?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be a bunch of big physical kids, and one of the reasons we went to the last weekend's tournament was to play back-to-back nights. We didn't do that last year with only 4 non-conference games, and so by going to a tournament, we were able to play back-to-back nights, and we're going to have to be able to do that in our entire league season. And that was one of the reasons why we did what we did, and I thought our kids responded okay the second night. Coming back here against Mesa, they're very similar to the 2 teams we just played, and a couple of the teams that we played, even Kearney in Colorado State, big physical teams, teams that are going to set a lot of screens, share the ball well. They're very well coached. Coach Heap's teams they very rarely beat themselves. They're usually a positive assist-to-turnover ratio and usually shoot a fairly high percentage because of the way that they play and how they get to the basket. I don't foresee that being an issue again this year. They're not shooting the ball quite as well as they have been, but still 46% and 32% from the field is about where they are. They've got 3 kids, real good interior play with a first-team all-conference kid. Bargen is a kid that's back from last year, and he's averaging about 16 and 7, and he's a first-team all-conference preseason young man. And they got 2 perimeter players that are both averaging about 13 and 12. So they've got 3 kids that'll come in and be kind of their go-to guys, but they do a great job of making sure that those kids get shots in areas that they want those kids to get shots in.
Yeah, Mesa is a talented team, played in the finals of the RMAC shootout a season ago against Colorado School of Mines. Coach, and then you play Western State, host the Mountaineers on Saturday. That game tips off at 8 p.m. And really kind of a program that you've had some success with in the past. I had a big win against them last season here. I'm sure you're hoping for more of the same.
Well, we lost both these games on the road and won both these games at home, and last year we beat both Mesa and Western State at home and lost to them both on the road. And I thought we played pretty well at Mesa last year and had a legitimate opportunity to win that game early in the season and didn't let it get away from us. We know that the RMAC is difficult. Every game is a tough game, and with a young group or an inexperienced group that we have, every game is a challenge for us, and we've got to be able to compete on a daily basis. And that's one thing that we're trying to do right now is just get an identity. What are we good at? What are we going to be able to be good at? Meshing the kids together, making sure that chemistry is good on the floor as well as off the floor. We've got great kids in the program. It's just that having 5 new kids in the system and playing significant minutes with those 5 guys, we haven't had the ability to really get a great feel as to how those kids fit together and how roles will be declarated. But the RMAC is very difficult. And we're just happy to be at home because personally, and I've said this since the day I got here, I think that Chadron State College has the best home court advantage in the RMAC. We've got a couple of kids, a couple other female student athletes that are doing an unbelievable job of promoting our games on campus. And if the Kearney game is any reflection as to the way that the rest of the year will go, I expect us to have a tremendous crowd this weekend, and our kids really do feed off of that.
And Saturday night should be a special environment. Ugly Christmas sweater is the theme that as Coach mentioned, the student activity group is working to get. So if you have an ugly sweater, dust it off, put it on, and come to the basketball games on Saturday. The women's, as usual, will tip off at 6, and the men will follow at 8. Best of luck to you this weekend, Coach.
Thank you.